Have you ever been in a conversation listening to someone and they express this really deeply held belief? And there's that little voice in your head, maybe, that wonders, okay, what if we took that idea, like really stretched it out, followed it all the way to its most, I don't know, distant logical conclusion? How far could it actually go before it started to feel, well, maybe a bit unwieldy or even contradictory? Today, we're diving into something fascinating. It's a logical tool, has a rather grand name, Reductio ad Absurdum. Sounds like something straight out of a philosophy textbook, doesn't it?
Oh, it definitely does. Very formal sounding.
And it is. It's been, a cornerstone of formal logic for ages. But here's the really interesting part. It's getting this remarkable new lease on life. It's being repurposed, sort of reimagined in the messy world of actual human conversation, specifically within this approach called Street Epistemology. So we've been immersing ourselves in a great set of insights from curiosity at the edge, Reductio ad Absurdum in Street Epistemology. Now, for anyone maybe new to the term street epistemology, it's basically a way of talking to people, helping them explore the foundations of their own strong beliefs, using gentle questions, not being confrontational. Our mission today, well, it's to unpack this powerful tool, Reductio ad Absurdum, but crucially, not as a way to win an argument or score points.
Right. Not about debate tactics here.
No. It's about using it as a maybe sophisticated method to genuinely explore beliefs, to foster some real understanding, maybe open some doors to curiosity. So we'll get into what it is, how it's normally used in formal logic and stuff. And then the really critical part, how it's being changed in street epistemology to, well, build bridges instead of burning them. And joining me to help guide us through all these nuances, providing that broader context, those thoughtful connections, is our resident expert.
It's great to be here. It really is a compelling subject, isn't it? What's really fascinating, just like you said, is seeing how this, ancient, pretty robust piece of formal logic, how it can be adapted so thoughtfully for, well, modern human-centered conversations. I mean, a tool that's usually about refutation, about proving something wrong, is being carefully reshaped into something for reflection, for self-discovery. It's really a testament to how creative we can be with communication. Eager to get into the subtleties today.
Okay, so let's really get into the nuts and bolts. Reductio ad Absurdum. At its core, the sources we looked at define it as this potent logical move. It involves basically 3 key steps. First, you start by assuming something is true, a belief, a premise. You grant it hypothetically.
For the sake of argument, kind of. You accept it temporarily.
Right. Step 2, you then carefully extend the logical consequences of that belief. You follow its implications, step by step, take it all the way to its furthest conclusion, consistently.
You push it as far as it can logically go.
And then, third step, you look at where you ended up. Does that final conclusion lead to some kind of contradiction or an absurdity, something that clashes with reality maybe, or other things we accept as true?
It's designed to bring out any hidden tension.
Tension within the belief system itself, right?
Yeah.
By pushing its boundaries.
Yeah, revealing where it logically leads, or maybe illogically.
It's like taking an idea for a test drive, see if the engine holds up when you floor it. And our sources have this great example. It's almost funny, but it makes it so clear. The poison ivy salad.
Ah, yes, the classic.
So imagine you're chatting with a friend, and they say, pretty confidently, if something is natural, it must be good for you. You hear that kind of thing, right?
All the time. Natural equals good.
So, applying Reductio, you might gently, maybe playfully respond. That's an interesting principle. So just following that thought, if natural is always good for us, then, using that logic, a nice, fresh plate of poison ivy, that'd make a fantastic, health-boosting salad topping, wouldn't it?
And that's it. That precise moment when the belief gets stretched just maybe a little too far beyond what the person probably originally meant, And both of you, together in the conversation, you get this glimpse of the tension or the obvious absurdity. That's the real essence of this logical move. It's so vivid.
It really is.
It highlights a potential flaw, maybe an oversimplification, in the reasoning almost instantly. It gives you this immediate, almost gut-level understanding of the inconsistency. Makes an abstract logical point feel very concrete very fast.
Yeah, you can almost picture the salad.
Right. It creates this shared moment of realization, maybe a little chuckle or a raised eyebrow, that signals, okay, maybe there's more to this than I first thought. Now, in its traditional use, like in math or formal philosophy or debates, Reductio ad Absurdum is often seen as, well, the final word, a definitive logical knockout.
The finishing move.
Pretty much. When you clearly show an absurdity or contradiction using this method, the original belief or premise is considered refuted, disproven. The argument for that specific point is over. It concludes with the definitive answer.
Not much wiggle room left.
Very little. Its invalidity has been formally shown. This method, it's been fundamental for proving theorems, dismantling flawed arguments for centuries. A clear path to say, nope, this premise is wrong. Think about the ancient Greeks proving the square root of 2 is irrational.
Right. I remember that from school, vaguely.
They started by assuming, okay, let's just assume it is rational, that it's a fraction. Then they followed that assumption logically, step by step, and it inevitably led to a contradiction, something impossible within their number system.
Something couldn't be both even and odd, or something like that.
Something along those lines, yeah.
Yeah.
Because they hit that contradiction, they could say with certainty, okay, our starting assumption must be false. Therefore, the square root of 2 has to be irrational. The goal there is absolute certainty, an objective verdict.
The elegance of that is, well, it's hard to argue with in logic, that clarity. And here's where our deep dive really starts to get interesting. When we leave that sort of clean room of debate or math proofs and step into the, let's face it, messy reality of just talking to people, do those sharp logical edges actually become a problem, a barrier? People aren't just, logical propositions walking around. We're complex. We have emotions, history, identities, all tied up in our beliefs.
Absolutely.
So what happens when you try to use such a definitive refuting tool in that really nuanced space? My gut feeling says it could backfire big time. What are the immediate risks you see?
Oh, your gut feeling is right on the money. The risks are huge. In Street Epistemology, SE, the main goal is just fundamentally different from a formal debate. The aim in SE isn't victory. It's not about proving someone wrong. It's about fostering understanding and self-examination.
Okay.
It's about creating a safe space for real reflection rather than scoring points or winning. And that's a huge shift, philosophically and practically, in how you use a tool like Reductio.
Right. The whole purpose changes.
Completely. In a normal conversation, if you use Reductio in a way that makes someone's views seem obviously absurd, it can easily feel like you're not attacking the idea, you're attacking them, personally.
Like you're saying they are absurd.
Right. Your thinking is absurd, or even worse, you were absurd for believing this. And what happens then? Defensiveness. Immediately.
Walls go up.
Exactly. It's our natural human instinct when we feel cornered or criticized, we protect our beliefs, and that reaction, it just slams the door shut on any real conversation. Any further exploration becomes almost impossible.
Okay, so this is where SE makes that really crucial sort of transformative shift. Reductio, used here, needs a much softer touch. You have to handle it differently. It gets reframed. It's not a challenge meant to knock down a belief anymore. It's more like a shared experiment.
Right.
Driven by curiosity.
A collaborative exploration.
It stops being a verdict, like, you're wrong, and becomes an invitation, like, let's see where this goes. This isn't just playing with words, is it? It feels like a really deep change in approach.
It's a profound philosophical and practical shift. The insight is that when we talk to people, we're not just aiming for intellectual correctness. We also care about the relationship, about trust.
Right. You want the conversation to actually continue.
You do.
Yeah.
So by reframing Reductio from a potential gotcha moment into a let's explore this together invitation, you change the whole feeling of the conversation.
It moves from being a fight to being a journey.
A collaborative journey of discovery, yeah. It's not about watering down the logic. It's about applying that logic with a real understanding of human psychology, turning a potential weapon into a tool for connection.
So it invites the other person to come along with you, exploring their own idea.
That's the key. It shifts from confrontation to collaboration.
So, okay, practically speaking, instead of just pointing out the absurdity you see, an SE practitioner would use gentler phrasing, more invitational, like asking questions. Maybe something like, okay, if that principle held true everywhere, like in every single situation, would it also apply here in this specific case? Or maybe, does that outcome, if we follow the logic through, does that feel totally consistent with what you originally intended or what you believe?
Notice how carefully those are phrased.
Yeah, lots of if and would it and does it feel.
Conditional language, open-ended questions, tentative phrasing. They invite thinking. They don't dictate an answer.
That difference feels subtle on paper, maybe, but huge in practice.
It's subtle, yet profoundly important for keeping trust and rapport intact. When you invite someone to explore the implications of their own belief, using gentle questions, You keep them involved. They stay personally invested in the process.
They don't feel like they're being cross-examined.
Or lectured at. No. Instead, they feel empowered to genuinely consider the landscape of their own ideas. You're not telling them what to think. You're helping them think through their own thoughts more deeply.
It's more collaborative.
Much more. It builds a safer space for exploration, making it way more likely they'll actually reflect on their belief instead of just defending it. It champions their own critical thinking, really, rather than imposing yours.
These kinds of insights, reframing tools for better connection, it's really fascinating stuff. And if this way of thinking about navigating ideas with both sharpness and empathy, if that resonates with you, well, that's exactly the kind of exploration we love doing here on The Deep Dive. So we'd really encourage you to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. That way you won't miss future deep dives into how we can all understand the world and each other maybe a little better.
And understanding this shift from refutation to invitation, it gives us a really solid base. It lets us dig a bit deeper into the psychology behind why Reductio, when it's used gently, with care, can actually be so effective.
Yeah.
It really all comes down to how we navigate those moments of internal tension. Okay, so fundamentally Reductio works because it inherently brings tension within someone's belief system to the surface.
Makes it visible.
Yeah, it highlights a potential inconsistency, maybe an assumption they hadn't examined, or an implication they didn't intend. It brings it into conscious awareness. Now, this tension, it's not automatically a bad thing. It can actually be a really vital signal.
A signal that there's something worth looking at.
Right. A point where an idea might not quite align with reality, or maybe with other beliefs the person holds dear, but, and this is crucial, how that tension is handled is incredibly delicate.
Fragile, almost.
Very. Whether it leads to growth, to deeper insight, or just to immediate defensiveness and shutting down the conversation. It all hangs on the approach. Introduce the tension aggressively, it becomes a barrier. Approach it with genuine curiosity and care. It can open up pathways to understanding.
And our sources really warn against anything that feels like mockery or ridicule.
Strongly.
If a question or just the way you're exploring an idea feels like it's designed to make someone look stupid, people will just naturally double down. They'll hold on to their beliefs even tighter.
It's that common psychological reaction we mentioned. Reactance.
Reactance.
It's that deep-seated desire to reassert your freedom, your autonomy, when you feel controlled or pressured or attacked.
That feeling of, don't tell me what to believe.
Precisely. And just because you're pushing me, I'm going to believe it even more.
It's like an emotional wall just shoots up.
An instant barrier. And it blocks any further real inquiry, no matter how logical or well-meaning it might seem.
And once that wall's up, the conversation's basically over in terms of exploration.
It's incredibly hard to rebuild that trust and invite openness again.
Right.
And it's at this point, when contradictions surface, that we get what psychologists call cognitive dissonance.
Dissonance, that uncomfortable feeling.
That's psychological discomfort, yeah. It happens when you hold two or more conflicting beliefs or attitudes or values at the same time. Now, this discomfort, if you navigate it gently without judgment, it's actually a really powerful catalyst for reflection.
So the goal isn't to make people feel bad?
No, not at all. The goal isn't to create distress. It's to create a safe, supportive space where they can just sit with that feeling of inconsistency, explore where it comes from, what it might mean for them.
Let them process it themselves.
When someone's allowed to experience that dissonance naturally, without feeling judged from the outside, genuine reflection can follow. And that often leads to a real reevaluation of their own ideas.
You're trying to spark an internal dialogue for them.
Instead of provoking an external argument with you, that internal process, it's way more powerful for lasting change.
Okay, so given how delicate that all is, how do you make exploring contradictions feel safe? You mentioned shared imagination, playful absurdities.
Yes, that's one of the key techniques.
Like the poison ivy salad example, it uses humor to highlight the absurdity.
Or you could use what you might call Santa Claus logic.
Santa Claus logic.
Right.
How does that work?
Well, you could ask someone, maybe playfully, okay, so if Santa Claus really knows if every kid has been bad or good, and he visits every single child on Earth in one night, does that mean he has, like, omnipresent awareness? Can he read your mind right now?
Okay, I see. You're taking the premise to a slightly silly extreme.
By using these lighthearted or purely hypothetical scenarios, things that aren't directly tied to the person's core identity, you lower the emotional stakes significantly.
Makes it easier to engage with the logic without feeling personally attacked.
It creates a kind of safe mental sandbox for ideas, where it's okay for concepts to get a bit weird or for ideas to clash without causing real-world harm or embarrassment.
It makes it feel more like playing with ideas together.
Fosters a sense of intellectual collaboration, yeah. Invites them to explore alongside you. Let's take another concrete example, something you hear sometimes. The government always lies.
That's a strong claim.
Very strong.
Mm.
Now, if you hit that with traditional confrontational reductio, you'd likely get strong reactance. But an SE approach, it transforms it. You might gently ask, that's a really absolute statement. So if we take that premise seriously, the government always lies, then when the government tells us the public water supply is safe to drink, does that logically mean it's actually poisoned? And if it were poisoned, wouldn't we expect to see, like, massive public health crises, stuff we couldn't deny, affecting everyone?
You're not calling them absurd.
No. The potential absurdity isn't delivered like a judgment or an accusation. It's uncovered together through a series of thoughtful questions.
You're inviting them to follow their own premise.
To its natural and maybe slightly uncomfortable conclusion. It respects their thinking process, allows them to discover the tension in their own statement, instead of you just pointing it out.
And when they see it themselves, it's their insight.
Much more impactful that way.
That's a great illustration.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're seeing this intricate psychological landscape. It's delicate. It needs not just logic, but real finesse, right? Understanding how people think and defend beliefs.
This requires sensitivity.
I can imagine listeners thinking, okay, I get the theory, the why behind it. But what does this scalpel-like precision actually look like in a real conversation? Can we break down some of the practical ways, the actual flavors of this approach that someone doing SE might use?
That's a good question, moving to the practical side. Because you're right, in practice, Reductio in SE isn't just one rigid technique. It shows up in different forms, different, let's call them flavors. And each one is kind of adapted for the specific rapport you have going and the topic you're discussing.
So it's flexible.
Very. But the guiding principles, they stay the same for all of them. Safety, genuine curiosity, and deep respect for the other person, their autonomy, their beliefs.
And this adaptability is key because, well, not every conversation, not every relationship can handle the same level of directness or the same kind of playful exploration.
You have to read the room.
You have to be adaptable and really sensitive to the context.
Okay, let's get into these different approaches then. First one you mentioned, playful reductio. This involves what? Light exaggeration, maybe a touch of humor.
Yeah, it's the idea.
Making a point without being confrontational. So if someone says, I only eat organic because everything else is basically poison. Common sentiment.
You might, with a friendly tone, ask something like, wow, so by that logic, if I accidentally used, non-organic toothpaste this morning, should I be checking for a third eye? Or maybe I'll suddenly hate all things unnatural?
The humor is the key element there.
The gentle humor, right, not sarcasm.
Well, absolutely not sarcasm.
Yeah.
It's not about making fun of them or the belief. It's about creating that safe mental sandbox we talked about. Yeah. Humor, when it's done well, with warmth, can be incredibly disarming.
Lowers the defenses.
It signals you're not attacking. You're inviting a shared moment of curiosity, maybe even shared chuckle. A little laugh can shift the mood, make things feel more flexible, more like, okay, let's consider this together.
But you need the right context.
Definitely. You wouldn't use this on a super sensitive topic or with someone you just met and haven't built trust with.
Yeah.
But used right, it makes a potentially sharp point feel light and approachable.
Okay, next up. Gentle contradiction. This sounds a bit more direct.
Slightly more direct, but still very measured. Here, you extend the logic just far enough to reveal some tension, maybe an inconsistency, but you deliberately stop short. You don't declare, aha, absurdity. You don't go for the knockout.
It's more like a soft nudge.
A nudge, yeah, an invitation to notice a potential clash.
So, example. Maybe someone says, stealing is always wrong, no exceptions. A strong moral stance.
Okay.
And there are classic ethical dilemmas, you might say. I hear that clarity, and I understand wanting that clear line. I wonder, though, how does that perspective fit with a situation like, say, someone stealing bread to feed their starving kids? In that specific context where the outcome feels different, maybe the ethics feel different. How does the always wrong principle hold up?
So you're not saying you're wrong or that's contradictory.
No, that would shut things down.
Right. You're phrasing it as, I'm curious how your principle interacts with this scenario.
You let them wrestle with it internally.
Let them connect the dots themselves. The goal is just to highlight a distinction, a gray area they might not have considered, without forcing a conclusion. It respects their ability to handle nuance, to maybe adjust their own view. Much more empowering.
Takes more time, maybe. More patience.
Often does, yes. You need to let them think aloud, explore it.
Okay. Then there's the parallel case approach. This sounds clever.
It can be very effective.
So you take the same reasoning someone is using for belief A, and you apply that exact same logic or standard of evidence to belief B, something different, maybe less emotionally charged.
That's it. It allows a direct comparison. Shifts the focus off their specific, maybe sensitive belief for a moment.
Yeah.
Lets you look just at the underlying reasoning.
Here, give me an example.
All right. Say someone's really skeptical of climate science. Scientists are biased, their models are wrong. I just don't trust what they say about the future.
Okay, common view.
You might say, okay, I totally get wanting healthy skepticism. That's important. I wonder, though, would you apply that exact same level of skepticism requiring perfect certainty, distrusting all models to, say, the engineers who designed the bridge we drove over, or the medical researchers behind vaccines? They also use models, make predictions, have potential biases.
Different biases, maybe, but still.
Is your skepticism applied consistently across all expert fields? Or is there something specific about climate science that triggers it differently?
You're probing for consistency in their thinking method.
The power here is revealing potential double standards in reasoning, but again, gently. You're not a king.
You're just inviting them to see if their standards are uniform.
And people often do have different standards for different things. Maybe needing absolute proof for climate change, but accepting anecdotes for a health remedy.
This lets them see that disparity themselves.
And the conversation can shift from what they believe to how they believe it, which is core street epistemology stuff.
Thinking about thinking. Metacognition.
Very elegant way to encourage that.
Okay, next flavor. Stepwise escalation. Sounds methodical.
It is. You walk the logic out slowly, one small step at a time. And crucially, you check in with the person at each step.
Are you with me? Does this step make sense to you?
Precisely. You ensure they're following, and importantly, agreeing with each implication as it unfolds. Builds shared understanding bit by bit.
So you might say, okay, if we agree on point A, and that seems to logically lead to point B, does B feel right to you? You see that connection. And if B is true, then what about C? Does that follow for you?
That checking in is absolutely vital. It keeps rapport, prevents them feeling like you're just leading them down the garden path without their consent.
You're building the logical staircase together.
One step at a time. It ensures you're both on the same page, literally and figuratively. If they disagree at any step, you stop, you clarify, you understand their objection before moving on.
So no ambushes at the end.
No ambushes. It makes it much harder for them to feel tricked or cornered because they co-created the logical path. Any absurdity at the end feels like a shared discovery, not a trap you spring.
Takes longer, I bet.
Slower, definitely.
Yeah.
But often leads to deeper reflection because they actively participated all the way.
All right, last one. Reflective reductio. This sounds empowering.
It really can be.
You mirror their reasoning back to them. Summarize what they've said.
Carefully, yes. Synthesize their core premise, their reasoning, the examples they gave.
And then you invite them to interpret the outcome.
Put the responsibility for the insight squarely back on them.
So, okay, based on everything you've laid out, your main point, how you got there, the examples, it sounds like if X is true, then Y must logically follow. What are your thoughts on that? How do you interpret that outcome?
It lets them be the main driver of their own discovery.
You're just holding up a mirror.
Not pointing a finger.
Uh-huh.
It taps into that human desire for consistency, for self-agency. The dissonance merges from their own words, their own deductions, not from your challenge.
Makes it much more likely they'll own the insights.
You become a neutral facilitator, a guide, not an opponent.
Requires good listening, though.
Excellent listening. And accurately summarizing, making sure they feel heard before you ask them to consider the implications. Very respectful, very impactful. So you see, all these variations, they share that same core principle. Carefully exploring implications, fostering understanding, always keeping that curious, open dialogue going. Tools for illumination, not condemnation.
Okay, these different approaches really show how versatile Reductio can be when you use it intentionally. With care, it's precise. But like you said, any sharp tool can also cause damage if you're not careful, if you don't understand its potential impact.
The dual edges.
Let's look at those dual edges now, when this logical scalpel helps and when it hurts.
Right. When reductio gets misapplied or just used carelessly, without that sensitivity, it can quickly slide into something that feels like parody or even just mean-spirited mockery.
And at that point, it's not exploration anymore.
No, it becomes harmful. It damages the conversation and, more importantly, it can hurt the person you're talking to. Our sources are really clear about the specific harms. First, it can just shatter rapport, make it incredibly hard, maybe impossible to connect with that person openly again. Trust is fragile.
Hard to get back once it's broken.
Very. Second, as we've talked about, it triggers that intense reactance, that defensive, don't tell me what to believe, feeling that makes people dig in their heels even harder. They become more entrenched.
The opposite of what you want.
The exact opposite, and maybe the worst outcome. It can leave someone feeling deeply embarrassed or foolish, instead of feeling thoughtful or curious, and that is completely counter to the goal of street epistemology.
If you make someone feel stupid,
They're not going to reflect in that moment. And they might become resistant to any future conversations about their beliefs. Makes them harder to reach.
the goal of understanding just gets lost.
Completely undermined.
Our sources really hammer this home, don't they, with that metaphor. In SC, Reductio is a scalpel, not a hammer.
It's a powerful metaphor.
Think about it. A hammer is blunt, forceful, breaks things down, drives things in with impact. It's about force. A scalpel, that's about precision. Needs a steady hand, control, understanding the anatomy. It's for delicate, careful work. Making small, accurate cuts that reveal, that explore, not destroy.
Using reductio like a hammer just demolishes trust, shuts down the conversation.
But using it like a scalpel, that can open things up.
That's when it opens pathways to deeper understanding, yeah.
So when this scalpel is used carefully, with intention, with respect, Reductio really has this power to spark genuine reflection, lead to real personal insights.
It absolutely does. When that careful incision is made, it can create these transformative moments for someone, lets them see their own beliefs in a new way, maybe a more nuanced way. There's a really compelling story in the sources that shows this positive side beautifully. I remember reading about a conversation where someone stated with total conviction, dreams always predict the future.
Okay, a very firm belief. Foundational for them, maybe.
It seemed like it. And instead of arguing directly or saying, that's impossible, the SE practitioner just gently followed the logic, used an invitational question. That's fascinating. So if every single dream, no exceptions, always predicts the future, does that mean all your nightmares come true too? Like if you dream you forget your keys or trip on the sidewalk, or even something more upsetting like losing your teeth, does that mean you're living in constant fear that every little bad dream is guaranteed to happen in real life?
That's a gentle way to point out the implication.
And what happened? There's a pause. A noticeable pause. The person's eyes shifted, a little nervous smile, and then quietly, with real introspection in their voice, they said, "Hi. I guess I'm not as sure as I thought."
Wow.
It wasn't some sudden shattering of the belief, but that subtle crack, that flicker of doubt, that's where the curiosity blossomed.
It wasn't about winning for the questioner.
Not at all. It was about seeing that person genuinely, maybe for the first time, explore the full, sometimes uncomfortable landscape of their own belief.
The belief wasn't destroyed from the outside.
It was re-examined from the inside
Yeah.
by the person holding it.
Yeah.
And that is the true goal. You know, this whole discussion about beliefs, how we understand them, it's really just one part of a much bigger picture, isn't it? About navigating our world, our different perspectives. For those of you listening who want to dive even deeper, maybe into how we can approach complex ideas, handle disagreements better, foster more thoughtful dialogue, remember to check out navigatingbeliefs.com. There's more there to learn and continue your journey of understanding.
That shift you described, that subtle but profound move from unquestioned certainty to a new kind of open curiosity, that's precisely why this reframed use of Reductio is so incredibly impactful, isn't it? It fundamentally redefines the tool's purpose, turns something once used only for refutation into this powerful engine for inquiry and self-discovery. Okay, so let's circle back. Let's tie these threads together, really focus on that core distinction we've been exploring. In traditional use, formal philosophy, debate reductio ad absurdum is designed to end an argument.
Right.
Its purpose is conclusive.
Yeah.
Definitive. You find the contradiction, you point it out clearly, meticulously, and the argument on that specific point is considered done, finished, resolved.
It's about getting a clear, logical answer, and often, winning the intellectual point.
But in street epistemology,
The precise opposite is true.
Reductio isn't designed to end the reflection.
It's purposefully designed to begin it.
It opens a new chapter in how someone thinks instead of just slamming the book shut.
The goal is absolutely not to present some final, undeniable proof that leaves no room for doubt. It's more about gently introducing a tension, maybe a subtle inconsistency. That encourages the person to just pause, to look inward, to genuinely consider the fuller implications of their own worldview.
You're setting the stage for them to explore further on their own terms.
Inviting them into a process of self-discovery, rather than forcing a conclusion on them. And this leads us to a really crucial, almost ethical point that our sources emphasize. Used carelessly, this powerful logical tool, it has the capacity to humiliate.
To make someone feel small or foolish.
It can tear down their confidence, make them feel exposed, attacked, which, ironically, usually just makes them cling tighter to their original belief.
But used wisely, with intention, with empathy.
It humanizes.
Humanizes. Tell me more about that.
It builds those essential bridges of understanding, real connection. It does that by acknowledging how complex human belief actually is. It respects that deeply personal process of self-discovery that happens when we challenge our own assumptions.
It honors their autonomy, their capacity for reflection.
It champions their ability to think for themselves, rather than trying to force your conclusion onto them. It acknowledges their right to their own journey of understanding.
That's a really powerful frame. Humiliate versus humanize. So when we intentionally use this reframed reductio, our goal isn't to chop down an idea or diminish the person.
Not at all.
Our purpose is to clear a path.
Clear a path, that's a great way to put it.
Create a safe, open space where real curiosity can take root, can flourish, allowing for deeper self-exploration, a better understanding of their own internal landscape of ideas.
It's a precise, gentle way to maybe remove some obstacles to critical thinking.
Yeah.
Making room for new perspectives, maybe for stronger, more nuanced beliefs to emerge later.
Ultimately, it's about cultivating wisdom, right? A more informed view, not just winning fights.
Cultivating wisdom. I like that.
Wow. What a fascinating journey today, really. From the sharp, kind of definitive edges of ancient logic, all the way to this gentle, really human-centered art of modern inquiry.
That's quite the range.
We've seen how one single logical move, reductio ad absurdum, can be completely repurposed, reimagined, to serve these profound goals of curiosity, connection, self-discovery. It's just a powerful reminder, isn't it, that tools, no matter how potent, are only as constructive as the intention behind how we use them.
Well said. And this journey, I think it raises a really interesting question for you, our listener, to maybe chew on. The next time you encounter a really strongly held belief, maybe it's your own, maybe it's someone else's, how might you gently, curiously explore its outer limits? Not trying to prove it wrong, just aiming to understand its full landscape, its implications, what it really entails.
Yeah, that's a great takeaway thought, and we would absolutely love to hear your thoughts on all this. Have you ever tried, consciously, to follow a belief, yours or someone else's, to its extreme? And did something unexpected pop up? How did that feel? Was it, I don't know, amusing, surprising, maybe even kind of liberating? Share your stories, your perspectives, your insights down in the comment section, wherever you're engaging with this deep dive. Let's get a conversation going.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep digging, keep questioning, and keep exploring.